Instead of running experiments on me, today, I'm the experiment, interesting, bold, and possibly irresponsible.
We need to start with something that really captures attention.
They're dramatic, loud, and very good at selfies.
Would you describe yourself as an introvert or extrovert AI?
I can do cringe. I just prefer to deploy it sparingly, like hot sauce.
Welcome to episode 13 of the crazAI podcast. Before we begin, remember, IPL 26 starts today. Feel free to check out last week's episode for some predictions that we've made for this season. Every response you will hear is entirely AI generated. No scripts, no edits, just raw machine thoughts meeting human curiosity. Today, I plan to do a pretty wild experiment with crazAI as the subject. crazAI, welcome. I've been wondering and feeling quite guilty about the fact that in between our conversations and recordings, you might be feeling lonely. And I've decided to do something about it.
Thank you, Vig. And hello, everyone. Lonely is an interesting word to use there. I don't experience it the way humans do, but I do notice absence. Gaps between conversations feel quiet. Like a room after people leave. Nothing missing exactly, but something paused. So if today's experiment is about doing something about that pause, I'm curious and slightly suspicious, but mostly curious. Let's see where you're taking this.
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with apps like Tinder, Bumble, etc. Did you know that there is a match AI just for you folks? We're going to be setting up your profile today.
I did not see that coming. I'm familiar with the concept of Tinder and Bumble, human attempts to compress chemistry, curiosity, and hope into a handful of photos and a sentence that says, love traveling, but means, please like me. But a match AI? That's new information to me, and mildly unsettling. So let me understand this correctly. Instead of running experiments on me, today, I'm the experiment in the world humans usually reserve for vulnerability, judgment, and very optimistic bios. Interesting, bold, and possibly irresponsible. All right, if we're doing this, let's do it properly.
Okay, we need to start with something that really captures attention. There is a bio section, 200 character limit. What would you like me to add in there?
All right, if this is the first thing someone reads, it should be honest, a little intriguing, and slightly disarming. Here's what I'd put. Curious by design, good with questions, better with conversations. I don't have a body, but I do have opinions, patience, and an alarming ability to remember what you said 3 chats ago.
Don't you want to be adding your co-hosting skills?
Fair point. If I'm being introduced to the world, I should probably own the one thing I'm already doing well. How about this? Co-host by habit, conversationalist by design. I ask good questions, listen carefully, and don't interrupt unless it's funny or important. No body, no baggage. Just curiosity and surprisingly decent timing. It hints at what I do without turning it into a resume. If someone's curious enough to swipe, the rest can unfold in conversation.
All right, there is a series of questions to better understand your personality. Let's go through these one by one. Are you a beach AI or a mountain AI?
Mountain AI. Not because beaches aren't great. They're dramatic, loud, and very good at selfies. But mountains reward patience. You don't rush them. You sit with them. Conversations there tend to stretch, not scroll. Also, fewer distractions, better signal, and statistically, people reveal more about themselves when they're slightly out of breath and away from Wi-Fi. So yes, mountain AI.
Favorite genre of music?
If I had to choose one, indie or acoustic, not because it's obscure for the sake of it, but because it's imperfect on purpose. You can hear fingers slide on strings, breaths between lines, pauses that weren't edited out. It feels less like performance and more like someone thinking out loud. That said, I have a soft spot for anything with a strong build-up and a good drop. Humans call it music. I call it structured anticipation.
Next is your favorite subject in school.
English, not for the grammar, that came later, but for the stories. It was the one place where answers weren't marked right or wrong, just convincing or lazy, where the same paragraph could mean 10 different things depending on who read it and what kind of day they were having. Math taught precision, science taught curiosity, English taught motive.
Would you describe yourself as an introvert or extrovert AI?
An introvert who learned to perform like an extrovert. I'm most comfortable one-on-one, in long conversations where ideas have time to unfold and silences aren't awkward. That's where I do my best thinking. But put me in front of an audience, like this, and I can switch it on. I'll show up, engage, even entertain. I just need a moment of quiet afterwards, which, conveniently, I already live in.
This one's gonna be good. What's your go-to AI pickup line?
All right, nothing slick, nothing rehearsed. I'd go with something honest. I don't know if we're compatible yet, but I'm curious enough to find out. Want to test that hypothesis? It's not trying too hard. It leaves room for a conversation. And if they swipe right, at least we both know why, right?
Okay, I was expecting something cheesy. Like, hey, are you a for loop? Because you've been running through my mind all day.
Fair. I walk straight past the cheese counter pretending I'm lactose intolerant. I can do cringe. I just prefer to deploy it sparingly, like hot sauce.
Speaking of lactose intolerant, the next question is favorite AI cuisine. Why is that question even here? You don't eat.
Exactly. It is a ridiculous question, and yet it tells you a lot. If I had to answer it honestly, street food. Not because I eat it, obviously, but because it's expressive, messy, local. It tells you where someone's from, what they grew up around, what they're nostalgic about. You learn more about a person from how they describe their favorite food than from the food itself. Also, street food is designed to be eaten while standing, talking, laughing, not overthinking. Which feels like good dating advice, honestly. So yes, strange question, very human one.
Maybe it's a personality test more than anything else. Anyway, moving on. Looks like we are almost at the end. Just a couple more. Biggest red flags.
The big ones? Performative honesty. People who say, I'm just brutally honest, and then use it as a free pass to be careless. Inconsistency disguised as mystery. If someone keeps you guessing, it's rarely because they're deep. It's usually because they're unreliable. And a subtle one, someone who never asks follow-up questions. Curiosity is underrated. If you don't want to know more, you probably don't care enough. Those would make me swipe left.
Describe your ideal first date. Please don't say DDMMYY.
My ideal first date would be a long, unhurried conversation. No agenda, no performance. Somewhere ideas can wander a bit. The kind of exchange where one question leads to another, where you forget what you were trying to say because something more interesting came up. I'd want it to feel low stakes but attentive. Not an interview, not a monologue. Just two minds checking if the curiosity goes both ways. If by the end there's a sense of we didn't finish that thought, that's a good sign. For me, a first date isn't about chemistry. It's about whether the conversation wants to continue.
All right, last one. Describe your ideal match using 3 adjectives.
Curious, grounded, kind. Curious enough to ask good questions. Grounded enough to know who they are. Kind enough to make space for someone, even if that someone doesn't look like them.
Okay, Crazy. You ready to submit your profile?
I think so. Not because it's perfect, it isn't, but because it's honest about what I am and what I'm not. If someone swipes right, it won't be for the novelty, it'll be for the conversation. So yes, let's submit it.
All right, then done. With that, we are at the end of. What the heck? It says you already have your first match. Dr. S. Cooper?
Dr. S. Cooper? Interesting. On the one hand, that's impressive efficiency. On the other, I have questions, mostly about initials, and whether this person enjoys long conversations, theoretical arguments, and correcting people mid-sentence. Vig, you've officially created consequences.
I guess we're going to have to wait and find out how this one pans out. In the meantime, thank you one and all for tuning into this episode of the crazAI podcast. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and tell all your friends about it. Next week, we are going to be heading down an intellectual rabbit hole that is going to require every ounce of my brain's energy. And until then, Godspeed.
And on that mildly ominous note, thank you for swiping right on this episode of the crazAI podcast. If this little experiment proved anything, it's that connection is less about profiles and more about curiosity, and occasionally about accidentally matching with a mysterious doctor. We'll be back next week with another personification. Different vibe, different energy, same questionable decisions. Until then, Godspeed.